Welcome in again to another episode of the Crypto Dojo Show, where we discuss everything that you should know about the world of crypto. Um, Today, what I want to talk about is the this Texas stock exchange. So there's a gentleman by the name of James H. Lee. He's the chairman and chief executive. He's out of Houston, Texas, and this announcement came out yesterday. So I'm just gonna read this because I think this is important. I think it's important, and I think that it has something to do with blockchain, digital assets, cryptocurrencies. I think all of this ties together. And so let me just get right into this article real quick, and then I got a video that I'm going to show to tie this all together. So, Texas Stock Exchange Group Incorporated announces plans to create the Texas Stock Exchange. Now, news is provided by the Texas Stock Exchange Group Incorporated. So, Texas Stock Exchange to provide new trading and listings venue for public companies, ETPs and ADRs. Recently completed capital raise includes global financial institutions, majority liquidity providers, and prominent business leaders from across the United States. Dallas, June 5th, 2024, PR Newswire. Texas Stock Exchange Group Incorporated announced today that it plans to launch the Texas Stock Exchange, headquartered in Dallas. Yes, sir. Texas Stock Exchange will focus on enabling U.S. and global companies to access U.S. equity capital markets and will provide a venue to trade and list public companies and the growing universe of exchange-traded products. That right there is a key. Exchange-traded products. To me, that signals they are aware of the value of the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF that's coming, and the host of other ETFs represented by cryptocurrencies that are going to be coming in the future. So the fact that it says this, it's a dog whistle. You just got to know. They're telling you without telling you. This is what I believe. So, what was that? Yeah. Capital markets and will provide a venue to trade and list public companies and the growing universe of exchange-traded products. Texas Stock Exchange will be fully electronic. Remember that. It's going to be fully electronic. National Securities Exchange that will seek registration with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Fully electronic symbols or signals to me that it's going to run on blockchain. Texas Stock Exchange Group Incorporated successfully completed its initial capital raise with the participation from more than 24 investors, including some of the largest financial institutions and liquidity providers in the world, such as BlackRock and Citadel Securities, as well as prominent business leaders from around the country. The liquidity providers backing Texas Stock Exchange Group Incorporated represents a significant portion of the equity volume on the U.S. lit exchanges and together comprise a majority of all U.S. listed retail volume. With approximately $120 million of capital raised, Texas Stock Exchange is expected to be the most well-capitalized exchange entrant to file a registration with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. That's another major key. It is expected to be the most well-capitalized exchange entrant to file a registration with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. That's major. And the videos that I'm gonna show, these keys are gonna tie in to what these people are saying. So boom, Texas Stock Exchange planned launch comes as changes in the equity markets provide an opportunity for greater alignment and more competition. Corporate issuers and exchange traded product sponsors are demanding more stability and predictability around listing standards and associated costs. Texas Stock Exchange intends to expand access to U.S. capital markets for all investors, while providing greater access and alignment for public companies and those seeking access to public capital. Changes in equities trading markets are driving more volume to exchanges and more choices for for issuers and sponsors, said James Lee, founder and CEO of Texas Exchange Group Incorporated. Texas Exchange will ultimately create more competition and quote activity, liquidity, and transparency, resulting in more consistent and reliable markets that benefit investors, global issuers, and liquidity providers alike. Texas and other states in the southeast quadrant of the U.S. lead the nation in economic expansion and population growth, making Texas the clear choice for the establishment of a new national securities exchange. For decades, Texas has been the nation's leader in attracting business relocations and expansions. It's home for more Fortune 500 companies than any other state and more than 5,200 private equity sponsored companies, many of which are preparing to access the public markets. In addition, there are more than 1,500 publicly traded companies throughout the region. We're thrilled to bring to fruition the long-held vision for a national stock exchange in Texas, Lee said. Texas and the other states in the southeast quadrant, have become economic powerhouses. Combined with the demand we are seeing from investors and corporations for expanded alternatives to trade and list equities, this is an opportune time to build a major national stock exchange in Texas. Texas Stock Exchange intends to submit a registration with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to operate as a national securities exchange later this year. Now, what we're talking about is an exchange, right? Okay, cool. Now, why is this exchange important, and what does it have to do with cryptocurrencies? What does it have to do with digital assets? What does it have to do with blockchain? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me pull something up. First video. Let's listen to what these news pundits have to say about the topic. Grab my phone. They keep going off. Hold on. Okay. Man. And I'm watching the Mavs right now. Ooh wee. It's okay. It's just the first half. It's all good. Boston came out. They came out fast. They that's a hard blow. The first half. But what I do not doubt is Jason Kidd and his ability to mount a comeback. So, anyway, go Mavs. Big Texas on this side. Big Texas. So, quick video.
Renita Young joins us from the newsroom. But we're going to talk some exchanges first, some big market structure developments potentially, Renita. Tell us about this Texas Stock Exchange.
Yeah, well, it's backed by BlackRock and Citadel. And apparently, the thing here is that there's been a lot more regulation lately and a lot more compliance fees for the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. And the creators of the Texas Stock Exchange say that it will have less red tape, and they're billing it as a more CEO-friendly alternative to the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. So far, they've raised about $120 million from around 24 investors, and they're planning to file that registration, those documents with the SEC sometime later this year, and then start facilitating trades next year and host its first listing in 2026.
I wonder what
now
company
they're
is
differentiating themselves, as I say, by saying it's a more friendly, more CEO-friendly alternative. But also, they want to skirt some of the newer rules that the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange has, like the push for board diversity, for instance, at the NASDAQ, and other things that the CEOs sometimes feel like they don't want to contend with. But they're also competing with this shifting corporate landscape, Oliver, because several companies have moved their headquarters out to Texas because they want a more tax-favorable state. They want more or less compliance, less regulation to contend with. And Texas is a place where you can do that. This will be a fully electric stock exchange, but it will have a physical presence in downtown Dallas, according to reports. All of this was first reported by the Wall Street Journal.
Okay. CEO-friendly alternative.
CEO-friendly.
All states kind of got...
Okay, so their tone to me is one of non-belief. Like they we can see that they don't believe in this in what's happening in Texas.
On that, reputation over the last couple of years, some of the big businesses and notably Tesla and others have moved there. So, all right,
that's the tone.
Cool. Fun. Another exchange. Let's do it. Okay.
Well, others have failed in recent years, and that have been backed by BlackRock and Citadel. So it's worth noting that. But we'll find out how this is. Some of them have failed. Some of them have been folded into the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ.
That's the big one,
That's the big one. Several of them, So we'll find out how much success this has. Off the top, though, $120 million investment.
Okay, so that right there. So you're saying that other exchanges have failed. Either they failed or they were folded into the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. But what we saw here in this article is that this is the most well-capitalized exchange entrant. It is the most well-capitalized, is expected to be the most well-capitalized exchange entrant to file a registration with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Even though maybe other exchanges were backed by BlackRock and Citadel and they turned out however they turned out, my belief is that this is not going to be that same thing. This is not going to be the same thing. It's not going to happen like that with this exchange. Because one, it's expected to be the most well-capitalized exchange entrant. And then two, I'm going to play this next video and I'll tell you what my two is. So boom. Let me show you what my two is.
But can Dallas really pull power away from New York? Let's take it to your next guest, who has forgotten more about the trading business than we will ever know. Joining us is former TD Ameritrade CEO and Chair Joe Mullier. Joe, thanks for joining us. Does this exchange?
I just like to say that this is from CNBC. This is from CNBC. That's all I'm gonna say.
Have a chance in what of succeeding?
Brian, I have a lot of respect for the investors. I have a lot of respect for Citadel and BlackRock. I have a lot of respect for the fact that Texas is a business-friendly state. They've got incredible taxes. There are advantages. Their courts, by the way, are a lot less stiff than, let's say, what the courts of Delaware are. But they're still starting from the beginning. And they're competing with the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ that have been around for a long time.
Okay.
The amount of capital and
He doesn't sound like he believes it. He doesn't sound like he believes it. He started out, praising, being very respectful, saying how much he respects everything, and then he hit you with the butt. And then he went on a tear. Started going on
experience in terms of solving problems that the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ have handled over the last few decades. It's going to be very, very, in my opinion, it's going to be very, very difficult to compete with that.
I guess the bigger question I would have is, what problem do you think this exchange is trying to solve? Businesses succeed when they do.
What problem is the exchange trying to solve? What we know is that in the last month or so, they changed the time frame. Blockchain speeds everything up. It makes transactions go instantly. Everything can be traded and settled instantly. The Securities and Exchange Commission just changed the time frame for how stocks are bought and sold. So it would take 2 days. They changed it to now it'll settle in 1 day. There's a reason why they did that.
Something that there's
What problem are you trying to solve? The problem that they're trying to solve is speed and efficiency.
Need for, and I think the founders would say it's high regulatory costs, too many rules, too many. Do something that this exchange is trying to solve. Businesses succeed when they do something that there's a need for, and I think the founders would say it's high regulatory costs, too many rules, too many regulations on companies. They want to be more free market. Do you think that's enough to help it succeed?
No, I think it's a plus, but it's not enough. Again, you have Godzilla with the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. And they've been around a long time. So, you know what? It's fair. I've heard somebody make a comparison between, well, how about the NASDAQ created problems in the New York Stock Exchange? The NASDAQ was founded in effect in the 90s. They took advantage of the internet. They did everything electronically.
Boom! He just explained why it's gonna work. I don't even think he realizes that. He just explained why it's gonna work. He said the NASDAQ came out in the 90s. And it got so successful because it took advantage of the internet. And it was electronic. What did they say here? This is going to be a fully electronic exchange. It's going to be a fully electronic exchange. Not only that, this is why I think it's going to run on blockchain. So it's the evolution of exchanges. So you had the New York Stock Exchange, and then you had the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ came and they incorporated the internet in their business model, which gave them the ability to compete and take market share from the New York Stock Exchange. And now you have another situation like that coming into fruition. You have the Texas Stock Exchange that is going to use a new technology to take market share. The NASDAQ used technology to take market share from the New York Stock Exchange. The New York Stock Exchange is Godzilla, and it is so huge and massive that you can't just upend it and but like try new things. The NASDAQ was a new exchange that you built, and you built within it these technology, these capabilities that it could interact with the internet. Now this new exchange that's being built is going to be built with capabilities that the NASDAQ wasn't built with. So you know what I'm saying? You're really you're not really making good points as to why. You basically just saying that it's because it's big. You know what I'm saying? You can't win. But that's what technology does. Technology disrupts. Technology disrupts legacy systems.
Well, how about the NASDAQ created problems in the New York Stock Exchange? The NASDAQ was founded in effect in the 90s. They took advantage of the internet. They did everything electronically.
And the Texas Stock Exchange is going to take advantage of blockchain.
That created a big problem for the New York Stock Exchange. You know what? The New York Stock Exchange adapted and adjusted, and they are still here today in significant force. The NASDAQ is still digitized. It's still doing everything electronically. The ability for Texas to be able to compete against them is not going to be easy from a business or a technical perspective. Now, maybe it's nice from a government perspective. Maybe politics are involved with this. I don't necessarily know that. But it's going to be tough to compete.
Like, Joe, you know, Paul.
I think we pretty much know all we need to know. Now, they haven't come out and said that this exchange is going to run on blockchain. I just want to make that very clear. They have not said that. But what they said was it's going to be fully electronic. And just understanding that blockchain technology is a technology that could be used to facilitate what they're trying to do on a high level, I don't see why it wouldn't be built on the blockchain. And if it is built on the blockchain, the question then becomes, is it going to be built on one blockchain? Is it going to be multiple blockchains? I feel like Hedera Hashgraph is going to have something to do with it because they are a Texas company. They're in McKinney, Texas. So maybe not. That's just my thought. But maybe it's going to run on multiple blockchains. Maybe it's just going to be one blockchain. But it's going to it'll be interesting to see. And as I come across more information, I will definitely make sure that I bring it to the dojo, because we got to make sure that, you know, we are operating and moving in this space in the most efficient way. So, major news. The Texas Stock Exchange to challenge New York City. Southern hospitality, baby. Oh, what a beautiful time to be alive. So, yeah. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and tune out. I gotta get back to this Mavericks game. It's 70-56. We still got some time left on the clock, so we're gonna see what happens. But I do appreciate you, as always, for tuning in to the Crypto Dojo show, where we discuss everything. And you probably was like, what is this? You might have been, what does an exchange have to do with blockchain, digital assets, cryptocurrencies? All of it runs on blockchain. It all runs on blockchain. So you're bringing all of these cryptocurrencies, you're bringing all of these digital assets and these technologies, you're bringing all of these things into an exchange, which is going to increase the value of these products. Where we discuss everything you should know about the world of crypto. And, you know, if you find this information informative, please like, share, subscribe. Yeah, we definitely want to get this information out to as many people as we can, because we want everybody to be able to win in the end. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, have a great evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time it is when you hear this message.